Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I wanted to highlight the Vortex. I haven't made a video about it for a while since it did receive a bit of a nerf, but honestly, it's really good after the couple of buffs to its tank techs specifically. Field maintenance and emergency armor are both 100 cost and very, very oppressive when used in the right scenario. So I've been testing a little bit, trying out different comps, and I've had some success with, well, something just like this. So here we are, this is the game. I decide to go for a Sabertooth Specialist, and I start with Mustangs and Hounds, where my opponent is a Giant Specialist, starting with Arclights and Steel Balls. Goes for double Crawler here, and the reason I picked this pack is mainly because I really want to pair the Vortexes with Chaff Clearing Mustang. You'll also notice that I am currently running the full Chaff Clear techs with both High Explosive and Culling rounds after it got buffed yet again. And, well, the idea is that the Vortexes are going to be the front line, and for the most part, the DPS in the early game. And then the Mustangs are going to be there to, well, help out with the chaff. And the thing is, the Vortexes are so good at tanking that you often don't need a ton of chaff in these scenarios. Now, both of us set up on the left side of the board. Right side has a lot of buildings, although it was mirrored, I guess, but I was kind of okay with pushing in here. And it seems that my opponent sold their building. I'm going to put one hound on the right side just in case there's something pushing in over there, so I can at least start clearing the chaff. But yeah, main fight is going to be happening on that left side. Funnily enough, I do have a Vortex looking straight at one of his Arclights. I do expect my opponent to go for a Crawler on the flank there to make sure that that doesn't happen again. But I mean, overall, I don't mind this positioning too much. I do end up losing round 1 here, but that's kind of expected, to be honest. Considering my opponent has Arclights starting into Mustang and, well, just in general has a much more beefy army where it's a lot to ask for both of my Vortexes to kill all of these units. Round number 2, and opponent immediately skips, which I'm a bit surprised about. I think that shield airdrop here is really good for them. It's not that good for me because, well, I have to deal with steel balls, which would probably kill the shield instantly, but for them, it would make sense. That being said, they do now have access to, well, a Raiden plus a Chaff, which perhaps wouldn't have been possible otherwise. Although they do sell out of the wall, they could have sold the other turret instead. I decided to go for Mass-Produced Phoenix just because I think it is a very, very powerful card. And I feel like it's very hard to not go for in these type of aggressive scenarios. The Phoenixes don't really lose anything. Their DPS is still pretty good, but their cost is half of what it normally is, so you can really start spamming them. And so yeah, triple Phoenix here for us. One on the right side, kind of work together with the Hound and perhaps try to catch a Mass Phoenix if my opponent went for it, which I thought they might, but instead they go straight into Raiden, which makes a lot of sense. You know, if they expected me to go for the Mass-Produced Phoenix, then Raiden is a pretty good answer, and it's not a bad response either into the Vortexes, at least early on, if the Vortexes don't have any levels yet. Thankfully, I do manage to stop this debuff from coming through, and I just hope that my Phoenix will be able to take down that Raiden. Looks like it just about will. And I even get a level there, so close round, but I mean, now I do have to do something about these Raidens. For the time being, I was kind of fine just letting the Phoenixes hopefully do their thing. If I buy more frontline, I should be able to stall for long enough, and then hopefully the Phoenixes, if they lock onto the Raiden, will be able to kill them. But long term, you usually do have to get some more dedicated units to deal with Raidens. Phoenixes just eventually tend to fall off once the Raidens are fully scaled. But for the time being, I'm going to focus on frontline, and now I get to actually buy a whole bunch of level 2 Vortexes. I also do get access to my Sabertooth, which initially I wanted to try and catch this Arclight off guard. Now we can see that the Crawler is being put in front, so that actually would not have worked. I could have also sent it to the right tower, but I thought my opponent would do something about that, which they don't, but, you know, I can't know that. And when doing the math, I realize I kind of want the money from the Sabertooth, because then I can buy all of these Vortexes, and I think also get this Phoenix level, plus maybe a missile in case my opponent decides to go for an attack here. Now, we got unit drops. My opponent and I both go for the Wasps, which should help against the Raiden. And I guess my opponent just hopes that they can take down my Mustang, which for now they're untech'd, so they're not the best at dealing with these blue wasps. And that's going to be all she wrote. Now, the tech that I went for on round 2 is emergency armor, which is particularly good in these type of beam-based units like Steel Ball, because it prevents them from killing the Vortex, and it immediately resets them on top of that. Which is a bad thing, because they'll have to start, you know, ramping up their damage from 0. And so, yeah, it's a really, really powerful tech. The fact that the Vortex still gets to fire during the time that it is immune is honestly an even crazier aspect of the tech. And all of that for just 100, it does become a bit of a pain to counter. The main ways that I've dealt with it, and I've seen my opponents try to deal with it, is just to try and hack. Although here, I guess the Raiden does do a pretty good job as well on the Giant Spec. They get a level, they manage to take down my Phoenix, and, well, the Vortex there going immune and untargetable kind of ends up griefing my Phoenixes, but I mean, that just ends up happening sometimes with these type of games. I mean, that is the nature of the Raiden. And I kind of know that I am, you know, being a bit risky here by trying to kill Raidens with mass-produced Phoenixes. But I feel like I don't have, you know, a much better alternative for the time being. I've got other problems to solve, so that's why I am just waiting. We are gonna get a second unit drop on round 5, 6, or 7, and hopefully that'll give me something to try and deal with this. For now, I get to just AA my Wasp. I get a laser sight from the card selection. My opponent goes for efficient giant manufacturing, which allows him to buy 2 more Raidens. And, well, I just hope that my Wasps here will be able to help out enough to take down the enemy Wasps and also to do a little bit of damage to these Raidens. Vortexes for now, not doing too bad. I am going to go high explosive ammo first on my Mustang. Very cheap tech, and this early on in the fight tends to do quite well. And indeed, we do manage to overwhelm our opponent and win the left side rather convincingly. Right side is struggling a little bit, but I should be able to catch up and finish off that Raiden. Unless disaster strikes, but I doubt it. And actually, during the debuff, my lone Phoenix on the right side just manages to take it out. So, very good round there. And we immediately get the second set of unit reinforcements on round number 5, which does include triple marksman. The only thing I was thinking about outside of marksman was maybe to try and catch this tower on round start by buying the Stormcaller, but it is somewhat likely that my opponent will put something in front of it, and honestly, I can't say no to triple blue marksman here when I'm up against Raiden. As I mentioned, I kind of need a better response long term. My opponent gets Typhoon from the drop, so I likely won't be able to rely on Wasps forever. And Marksman here just is fantastic. Allows me to start transitioning out of the Phoenixes, which will likely start struggling now that the techs are starting to come out and levels are available too. Fork is the thing that my opponent goes for first. Not a bad idea. I don't have a ton of chaff, so this will actually hit quite a few units. Could also go for things like chain, but into mass vortex, I don't mind this at all from my opponent. Also, fork decreases range by less than chain, so there's a little bit of a benefit there. And yeah, let's see how this goes. I do have a Typhoon to deal with now, so ideally I get to keep maybe a couple of vortexes alive. And it seems like the chaff clearing, it's alright still, but it's starting to struggle a little bit. Marksmen do manage to lock on. But I think attack enhancement there perhaps would have made the difference, as I leave a lot of the Raidens on low hit points. And despite taking down all the Raidens on the left side, this Typhoon will be able to win. The right side sadly also loses, and so I take a little bit of chip damage there. Round number 6, nothing too important for me here. It's too late for supply or super supply in my opinion. My opponent goes for the absorption module, which does make quite a bit of sense. It's very good on basically all giants, and even on things like the level 2 Typhoon here, it's a pretty solid item. I could go for advanced defensive tactics, but I don't have any attack and defense enhancements clicked yet, so I feel like I should just invest all the money in my board. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I take all of the Mustang levels where possible, and I'm going to go for culling rounds now second. I don't really care about the Mustangs dealing damage. I've got other units for that, like the Vortexes, the Phoenixes, the Marksmen, even the Wasps, but you know, I need something to instantly clear all the chaff, and high explosive plus culling rounds should help with that. and just take down all these crawlers instantly, which indeed you can see that they do disappear very, very fast. And now all of my marksmen managed to get the lock-ons. And, I mean, that looks a lot better. Still, I have to deal with this Typhoon, which is a bit of a pain, but as soon as all of the Raidens are dead, at least on the left side, we should be okay. Note that I did go for double defense enhancement, so that's exactly what I mentioned, right? Advanced defensive tactics here was available, but, you know, I could just take the tower enhancements instead. Perhaps I should have gone for it, but this costs 350, and I already get 30% from just the second one alone for 300. And looks like we should be able to get the victory here on round number 6. Not a massive one though, and I am starting to be a little bit afraid of the long-term scaling of Raiden. Is a bit of a unit that just eventually will win through the sheer nature of its techs, and especially once it gets levels, the things that it struggles into tend to not really be a massive struggle anymore. Round number 7 though, I do get a very, very nice spell there. Electromagnetic Impact shows up, and I'm very happy to pick that up. Some pretty good items as well, if my opponent decides to go for that. And they do. Kind of greedy. I thought that they would go for the EMP because they already picked an item, but seems like they're just going to prioritize the long-term scaling of their board. They are going to sell out of their Typhoon to be able to go for, well, I guess, worms in this case, purchased at level 2. With these items, that could prove to be somewhat problematic. Now, on my end, I decided to go for scorpions with the armor enhancement to, you know, make them even beefier. And because I wanted to catch this Typhoon that is, you know, sitting up against the flank. No way to defend that from my opponent. And if I manage to spawn that in, I should be able to take it down and then hopefully allow the Wasp to do a little bit better. Because it is level 3, it does have an item. And if not for that Typhoon, I mean, I should be kind of fine. The interesting thing is that my opponent did click aerial specialization on the Typhoon and ended up selling out of one of them, so there is perhaps a little bit of wasted resources there if they have to eventually also sell out of this one. For the time being, we seem to be doing quite fine on this left side. That Typhoon does end up dying, even though the Scorpion still had to spawn in, and it looks like I will have enough DPS to be able to take down the sandworm that was carrying that portable shield. Keep in mind that, effectively, that was a level 4 sandworm in terms of hit points, so not too unhappy about the DPS of my board. And we get a very nice round on a turn where, I mean, maybe my opponent's trying to catch me off guard, although I will say that the EMP helped me a lot there. You know, getting rid of the fork on those Typhoons, or not the Typhoons, the Raidens, and also disabling a bunch of techs on the other units around it. Not bad whatsoever. Now round number 8. Oof, even more spells show up. Another electromagnetic impact, an orbital javelin, and a nuke. Now, the thing is that these spells are not bad for my opponent either, because the worms, if they are underground, won't get hit. And they can pretty easily beacon away a lot of their units because they're mostly playing large units rather than a bunch of small ones. So in this scenario, I wasn't quite sure what to go for. I thought, well, I could go for, you know, a big nuke, but realistically, it would just kill, you know, 3 Raidens, maybe. If they beacon this one outside of it, then only 2. And if I hit the Javelin, then I will also kill 2 Raidens, so that felt like the best option to me. I am going to beacon away. I thought that my opponent here would go for Javelin, which is why I don't beacon this fully to the right, but I definitely should have, because from what we can see, they went for the nuke. And honestly, it's a very sensible pickup, because Raiden is very good at breaking barriers, and, well, all of my units inside here would die to a nuke. They're trying to move away. They do go for temp speed. Both of us are starting to low now. Temp range, temp speed. And I decided to go for double shot on the Scorpions because I thought, well, they're not the worst into the Raiden here until EMP comes out. They're very, very annoying for him to kill. And the double shot might give me the damage I need to be able to take down, you know, the sandworms, which right now are my biggest concern. But yeah, That is a bit of a disaster, and all of the enemy giants are still alive. I think I only ended up killing one Raiden instead of two, and suddenly I'm going to be dealing with 3 Raidens and I think 2 sandworms still alive on top of the enemy Arclights. So while I was looking very healthy last round, this round did not look too good. And well, now on round number 9, there is the Wraith. Now, I decided to go for the Wraith and sell it. I am gonna say I probably should have gone for the melting point here that is being offered, because I didn't fully realize it at the time, but these sandworms are starting to get a little bit out of control. Level 3 sandworm with an absorption module, level 2 sandworm with the portable shield. I don't run acid on my scorpions, and even if I did, you know, I would likely end up running through my own acid at some point, so I would have to clean it up. It's a mess. And I think in this case, with how close the enemy is, and the fact that they don't really they're not really going for the larva-based builds with mechanical division and replicate, my melting point shouldn't struggle to lock on. And if that isn't enough of a reason, melting point is also quite good into Raiden. Of course, the EMP counters it, but you know that Raiden just doesn't have a ton of damage to take down the tanky melting points. So even when they get EMP'd, they often still end up killing the Raiden just by slowly walking up to them and then beaming them down. Now, I decided to go for another Scorpion here on the right side with the Mustang behind to try and attack the right side tower, because it has been somewhat under-defended, and crucially, it has been level 1. So if I do manage to take it out eventually, that would be 9 seconds of debuff, which would be extremely valuable. And yeah, now oil comes out after the nuke. I do have some hounds on the board. I did intend to use them for sprinklers eventually, if that was needed, but I didn't really expect that oil right now. Although I guess there is no fire effect, so for the time being, my chaff is not going to end up dying to that, and I might be able to click it next round. EMP comes out on the Raidens, very sensible move, trying to get rid of, you know, the Scorpion armor and reduce their tankiness. But I do manage to take down that right tower as I wanted, and that gives me enough time to be able to deal with that sandworm. But as you can see, that was exceptionally close, and it was very, very near to the debuff expiring and the worm starting to heal again. So yeah, it's a bit of a problem here. The other thing that I was, well, kind of thinking about is I now have to deal with this EMP. And there's just no good way for me to deal with that, other than, well, picking the item here, which is quite nice, the photon coating, and perhaps going for something like Farseer photon coating to really keep the tankiness on all of the units, make sure that the vortexes do trigger their emergency armor, all of that. And so that becomes my priority here. There's a smoke as well, so I do decide to go for Sprinkler. I thought my opponent would go for a Fire Badger to light this on fire, which it seems that I was correct about. I'm going to shield at least this part of my army, you know, to be able to deal with any smoke that would be landed behind my hounds. The photon is going to go on the rightmost Scorpion here, because I'm not really going to be able to cover that with the Farseer. Then I'll have the money to go for probably double Farseer on this left side to cover, well, the rest of my army, and hopefully that'll be enough. The EMP is back off cooldown, which I'm pretty happy with. I'll be able to hit both of these Raidens, and yeah, I mean, that is the round that I came up with. I do kind of run out of time here, as I don't beacon this Scorpion into the right side tower, but we'll have to see how this goes. I also end up putting a crawler on the flank just to make sure that this Raiden doesn't instantly hit my more important units. And, well, can we take down the worm is the real question. All of my units are locked onto it. It does seem like this one will fall. And with the EMP'd Raidens, I should be able to at least take those guys down. Looks like I will be able to, but now that left side worm is starting to look quite scary. One of my Scorpions gets chomped. The other one does turn, but it's been EMP'd, so there's no double shot. And with the burrow maintenance that had been clicked earlier, suddenly this worm becomes completely unkillable. And with 4 Raidens still alive, after 2 of them have been beaconed backwards, I don't think I'm going to survive this. I only have 1 Wasp left, that gets taken down. And yeah, 5 Giants is simply too much for me to deal with on this round, and I end up losing. Now, what went wrong? Mainly, it's that I disrespected the worms for a little bit too long. I thought that maybe I'd be able to get through it with my double shot scorpions, but I should have realized that at level 3 with burrow maintenance, portable shield, the absorption module, I really need to make sure that I just take this down. And the best way to do that would be through a melting point. Now, it was offered to me earlier and I skipped it, which was one mistake. But we could even try this round to perhaps go for the melting point. So I think one of the big problems that I had here is that I kind of focused too much on the EMP that my opponent had on their Raidens, and I wanted to counter it by going photon. But what I should have realized is that, one, I have this photon coating here, and I can simply, you know, land this EMP onto the enemy Raidens, and I should be kind of fine. I can sell this as well. I will go for the double shield, and then from there on, I can simply go for 2 melting points, because I think that is the true biggest problem that I currently have. It's dealing with these enemy sandworms that are just, you know, too out of control. I am going to beacon this scorpion into the right side tower and hope that it gets there. We'll have to see. I think temp speed here wouldn't be a bad idea. I can go for some missiles. Let's do that. Let's do this. I think I bought... I don't know why I bought that. I don't think that's necessary. Don't know why I mass recruited. I only need 2 melting points. That's it. Save ourselves a little bit of money at least. And I don't even think I really need to do much else in this case. I don't need to go for any techs on the melting points. I think they're tanky enough. The sandworms are the real problem, and they will be, you know, in close range. I'm going to go for perhaps double attack. And I guess I have forgotten about something here, which is the fire, right? But I'm not too sure if that would have done anything, to be honest, considering that the Raidens likely would have ended up hitting my couple of hounds that were at the forefront. As we can see, we do lock on to the sandworms. One of them goes down very quick. The right side is not doing too poorly, as I do manage to take down one Raiden at least with my mass-produced phoenixes. And maybe with a good debuff here, we can get a nice round win. In fact, we do manage to take down the big Raiden, which is kind of the main thing I was afraid of. And with the help of the marksman and the melting point surviving, I do get a victory. It's very tricky this late. I think there are a bunch of things that can go wrong. The melting points might end up walking through the smoke, all of that. So it is a bit tricky, and I should have just gone for the melting points earlier. But it shows that there was a victory here. I think my opponent was very low on hit points, so I would have been able to finish them off. Oh, actually it wouldn't. But it would have given me, I guess, a bit better of a chance at the very least. The easiest, though, would have been to just, you know, take the melting point when it was offered on round 9. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up and down in the comments below what you thought about it and whether you've tried to play Vortex with the tank techs early, perhaps even, you know, toying around with the hyper chaffclear focused Mustangs. I've seen it being played quite a bit, and it seems pretty strong, especially these type of headbutts. You don't even really need range because they can sit behind all of your, you know, tankier units. Anyway, if you want to stay with the latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.